Okay, it's time to take the CDL test. When you take your test, you will begin inspecting the rear area of the bus. As you can see, I am standing on the passenger side in front of this panel, which we will open to begin the inspection. The rear area items to be inspected will be the power steering reservoir, the power steering pump, the air compressor, and as we move to the rear of the bus, we will inspect the alternator, the water pump, the dipstick, the coolant reservoir, coolant holding tank, and we'll inspect the belts as well as the exhaust system. So I've got here the door handle. This activates the front and rear doors. This is going to allow me to open the rear panel. Just simply insert it, turn it counterclockwise, one to the rear as well, and then just gently lift the panel. I'll begin the inspection with the power steering reservoir. I'm going to inspect that it's not cracked, damaged, or leaking. It's not dented. It's securely mounted, and there are no missing parts. On the top of the reservoir, there's a cap. If I release the cap, there's a dipstick. It allows me to check the fluid level, and I can add fluid to the reservoir and then secure the cap. I'm going to inspect all of the hoses, but the hoses aren't cracked, damaged, they're not dry rotted, they're not leaking. And I'm going to check the couplings that they're tight and secure and they are not leaking. Directly behind the power steering reservoir, behind the frame rail, you can't see this, but that's where the power steering pump is. I'm going to inspect that it's not cracked, damaged, it's not leaking, it's gear driven. I'll also inspect the hoses at the power steering pump to be sure that they're not cracked, frayed, leaking, and the couplings are tight and secure. Directly in front of the power steering pump, you'll find the air compressor. It's also gear driven, and I'll inspect that the case is not damaged, cracked, there's no leaks, and I'll inspect the hoses as well. Again, they're not frayed, damaged, they're not leaking, and they're tight and secure. All right, so now we are standing directly behind the bus, and we're going to finish up the inspection of the rear of the bus. So we're going to open up the rear deck lid. Just simply grab the handle. It comes up nice and easy. You're going to use your door handle once again to open up this belt guard panel. So again, insert it, turn it counterclockwise, and just gently pull the panel open. At this point, we will begin the rear area with inspecting the alternator. As with the other components, we want to inspect that the case is not damaged or cracked. There's no apparent sign of anything wrong with the unit. No missing parts. All nuts and bolts are tight and secure. Since this is an electrical device, we want to inspect the electrical connections. All the wire jackets are clean and not torn. No bare wires. No excessive corrosion on any of the connections. This is belt driven, so we want to inspect the belt. That the belt is not cracked, it's not frayed, it's not ripped, no signs of damage, and when moved by hand, it has no more than 3/4 of an inch of play. As I move to the left, I'm going to inspect the water pump. As you can see, it is also belt driven, so we're going to inspect the belt again. No more than 3/4 of an inch of play, no rips, tears, or cracks to the belt. We're going to inspect that the water pump is securely mounted. There are no missing parts. All nuts and bolts are tight and secure, and it is not leaking. We will inspect the hoses and the piping connected to the water pump. All clamps are tight and secure. No signs of any leaks. No missing parts. As we continue, we can check our oil level by using this yellow handle. That's the dipstick. This would allow me to pull the dipstick out, check the oil level, and if I needed to add oil, I could do so at this spout right here. By the way, during your test, it's not necessary for you to pull that out, but you do want to explain how you would check the oil when you do so. All right, we will, at this point, inspect the exhaust system. There's piping it's tight, secure. The U-bolts and clamps are tight and secure. There's no missing parts. No dents, no punctures. There's no soot lines that would indicate any cracking in the exhaust system. And finally, I'll inspect the coolant recovery tank. This is where we would actually add coolant if we needed to keep the engine at proper temperature. We're going to inspect that the unit is not damaged, there's no apparent holes, there are no leaks, no missing parts, it is tight and secure. We also have two sight glasses, which you can see right here, which would allow you to visually inspect whether the engine's cold or hot to make sure that you have proper coolant level. You would add coolant in here by simply pulling this door open. I'll conclude by inspecting the bumper, and no signs of damage, no missing parts, and I'll look underneath the bus and inspect that there are no leaks, transmission fluid, oil, or coolant. And that takes care of the rear segment of the bus. We will begin the inspection of the front axle right here at the front of the bus. I will begin by inspecting the steering box. The steering box is not damaged, it's not cracked, no signs of any leakage, no punctures. It's securely mounted, no missing parts. I will inspect the hoses connected to the steering box, that they are not weather rotted, they're not cracked, there's no leaks to the hoses, they're tight and secure on the steering box. As I move out, I'm going to inspect the steering linkage. All of the rods, all of the arms, all of the links, nothing cracked, damaged, bent, or broken, no missing nuts, bolts, U-joints, or cotter pins. All the parts are there. You're going to inspect the ball joints, the couplings. Again, no damage, no missing parts. As we move out, we'll inspect the airbag mount. The airbag's mounted to the frame securely. It's not damaged, no missing parts. It's not bent or warped. We will inspect that the airbag is mounted properly in the mount. The airbag is made of rubber. We want to make sure that it's not cracked, punctured, no nuts or bolts or screws stuck in it, and that it's not leaking. Right next to the airbag, you'll find the shock absorber. It needs to be securely mounted, nuts and bolts tight and secure, both top and bottom, and not leaking any oil. We'll then begin inspecting the brakes. The brake system will begin with the brake drums and the brake linings. The drum is not cracked, damaged, or warped. There are no foreign objects in the drum, no sign of any grease or oil. We'll also inspect the brake linings. The linings are not dangerously worn thin, and that no sign of oil or grease on the linings, no missing parts, tight and secure. We will inspect the brake chamber. The brake chamber is securely mounted, no missing parts, and the chamber itself is not damaged. No cracks, no punctures, no sign of any leaking. We'll also inspect the brake lines and the brake hoses. Not kinked, punctured, not leaking, tight and secure. We'll inspect the slack adjuster and the push rod. Again, not damaged, not bent, not warped, no missing parts, mounted securely, tight and secure. With the slack adjuster, you've got to tell the examiner if the brake's released, if I moved the slack adjuster, it would have no more than 1 inch of play. We move out, we'll then inspect the tire. Now we can see the tire, it looks to be in good condition. The sidewall is clean, no chunks, no nails, screws, or bolts in the tire. We have at least 4/32 of an inch of tread depth. We need to check the inflation of the tire. We could use a regulation air gauge to check the tire pressure, or hit the tire with a heavy mallet to make sure that it was inflated. You'll want to inspect the wheel. The wheel looks to be in good condition, no sign of any damage, no cracks, no welds. We'll inspect the lug nuts. All the lug nuts are in place, no signs of any rust. They appear to be properly and securely fashioned. We'll inspect this hub seal. We want to make sure we have all the nuts, the bolts tight and secure, and no signs of any leaking. We'll then inspect the splash guard. The splash guard is not damaged, it's not ripped or torn, no missing parts, it's tight and secure. And finally, the mud flap. that it is not damaged, not ripped or torn, and no missing parts, tight and secure. And that concludes the front inspection of the axles. We are now at the rear axle of the bus, continuing the inspection. When we inspect the rear axle, with the exception of the drive shaft, the U-bolts, the frame, and no spacers behind the dual wheels, the front and rear are exactly the same. So you're going to be repeating a lot of what you said at the front axle here at the rear. So to begin, I will inspect the drive shaft. That the drive shaft is not bent or damaged. It's not warped. I'm going to inspect the U-bolts, that they're tight and secure, holding the drive shaft in. And then I'm going to inspect the frame on the full length of the bus. That the frame has not been welded, it is not bent, warped, there's no signs of any cracks or damage to the frame. The transit buses, our Suntran buses, do not have spacers between the dual wheels. You need to tell the inspector that. At this point, I will inspect the airbag mount. The airbag is mounted to the frame. It's not damaged, it's not bent, warped, or cracked. It's securely mounted. I want to make sure that the airbag is mounted securely in the mount. That the airbag is not damaged, it's not punctured, it has no foreign objects, and it's not leaking. Right next to the airbag, you'll find the shock absorber. You're going to inspect that the shock absorber is not leaking, and that it is tight and secure with a nut and bolt both at top and the bottom. We'll go to the brakes. We'll inspect the brake drums and linings. Again, that the brake drum is not damaged, it's not cracked, it's not warped. No foreign objects in the drum, no sign of any oil or grease. Brake lining should not be worn dangerously thin. No missing parts, tight and secure. No oil or grease on the lining. I'll inspect the rear brake chamber. The chamber is not damaged. There are no cracks. It's not leaking. No missing parts, tight and secure. I'll inspect all of the brake lines and the brake hoses, that they're not kinked, they're not punctured, they're not leaking. We'll make sure that the couplings on those brake lines and hoses are tight and secure, and no leaks there either. We'll again inspect the slack adjuster. The slack adjuster has to be properly mounted. No signs of any damage, not warped or bent. With the brakes released, the slack adjuster should not move more than 1 inch when moved by hand. We're then going to inspect the tires. At the rear, we want to make sure we have at least 2 32/2-inch tread depth. The tire appears to be in good condition. There's no chunks, no cracks, or any visible damage to the tire. We would also check the inflation with an air gauge or a heavy mallet to determine that the tire is inflated. The wheel cannot have any welds. It appears to be in good condition, no signs of any damage. We're going to check this hub seal, no missing parts. All the bolts or the nuts are tight and secure, and there's no sign of any leakage. We'll also inspect the splash guard. It's not ripped or torn. It's securely mounted, no missing parts. Finally, the mud flap. It too is not ripped or torn. There's no missing parts. It's secure on the bus. And that's the rear. We'll begin the exterior inspection of lights and panels here at the passenger side rear view mirror. We want to inspect that the mirror is properly mounted. The mount is not damaged. There's no missing parts. It's tight and secure. The mirror casing is not cracked or damaged. The mirror glass, both the top panel and the bottom panel, are not cracked, broken, or damaged. We'll move to the front of the bus. Starting at the top, we want to inspect the top clearance lights. We begin at the top and methodically move down the front of the bus. So the lenses, I can see, are not cracked, they're not damaged. They're the proper color, which is amber. They're all securely mounted, 2 screws within each one. Moving down, we'll inspect the windshield molding, the weather stripping. It's not ripped or torn, and it's properly sealed. We're going to inspect the windshield, glass is not cracked, it's not damaged, no rock chips, sizable rock chips that you're going to find in the windshield, anything that would obscure your front vision. We're going to inspect the windshield wipers. We're not missing any parts. Everything's properly secured, no sign of any damage. We'll inspect the wiper blades. They're not ripped or torn. They're securely mounted onto the wiper. So we'll move down. We'll inspect the four-way flashers, the turns, lenses. Proper color is amber. They're not cracked or damaged. As you can see, they're properly operating. The bulbs are functioning. We're not missing any parts. We'll inspect that the headlights are not cracked or damaged. Both high beam and low beams are illuminated. No missing parts. The housing is not damaged. The bus is sitting level. Again, we'll look underneath to make sure that there's nothing that could be leaking in the front of the bus. To the driver's side, we will begin this side with the mirror again. We want to make sure that it's mounted properly, securely. There's no missing parts, no sign of any damage. The mirror housing is not cracked. The glass upper panel and lower panel is not damaged and appear to be in great condition. We're going to inspect the driver's window. The seals are secure, weren't broken, or damaged in any way. As we move to the bottom of the front section, we are at the battery box. Again, you will use your door handle to open this panel, lift it up, and inspect your batteries. That they're properly mounted. The battery trays are tight and secure. There's no sign of corrosion or leaks. You can't smell sulfur. You want to make sure all of the batteries have caps. All of the cells are capped. Make sure that your connections are tight and secure. No bare wires. No excessive corrosion of the batteries. Continuing down the side of the bus, we'll check our top marker light. The bulb is illuminated. The lens is amber in color. It's not damaged or cracked. Securely mounted with 2 screws. Our side markers, amber in color. No damage or cracks to the lens. No missing parts. The screws are tight and secure. We're going to inspect the sideline of the bus, and all of the windows are secure. None of the weather stripping is damaged. None of the glass is cracked or broken. As you inspect along the bottom, you would make sure that if there is a panel, an access panel, that you inspect that it's secure. The bottom marker light, bulb is lit, proper color is amber. We have no missing parts, screwed down tight and secure. Rear side marker, again, no broken lenses, both bulbs are illuminated, no missing parts, tight and secure. Check that our rear panel is secure and tight, and then we'll move to the rear of the bus. So we'll start at the top. See, we've got an array of lights to inspect in the back of the bus. The top marker lights, proper color at the rear of the bus is red. All the lenses are the proper color. None of the lenses are cracked or damaged. All of the bulbs are lit. There's no missing parts. 2 screws in each lamp. There's our backup alarm. We have another row. Top marker lights, red in color. No damage to the lens. No missing parts. These are deceleration lamps. When the brake is applied, they will flash. Here we have 4-way flashers, emergency flashers. Proper color is amber. We're going to make sure that the seals are tight and secure. All of the bulbs are illuminated. No cracks to the lens. Here you can see we have stop light, tail light, stop light, tail light. Proper color is red. No damage to the lenses. All the bulbs are illuminated, and the lamp seals are tight and secure. This is our backup light. Backup light, while you're in reverse, illuminates the rear of the bus. Proper color is white. No cracks to the lenses. lens sealed, tight, and secure. We have our reflectors. They're securely mounted and they're not damaged. You'll also inspect that we have our license plate light, the bulb illuminating the license plate. We do the same on this side as we did on the other side. Make sure the lenses are not cracked and damaged. The proper color, amber, red, for stoplight tail light, white for backup light. Again, reflector securely mounted, no damage. So as we move up the passenger side, the lamps, our top marker, the rear of the bus, red in color, no cracks, damage to the lenses, no missing parts. As we move down, we want to make sure that panel we had open earlier is tight and secure. We're going to inspect the glass, all of the windows, that the weather stripping, the glass is not cracked or damaged, and all of the stripping and molding is sealed tight and not ripped or torn. Side marker light, both bulbs working, lenses not cracked, proper color, no missing parts. And here is our the fuel door. You would inspect the fuel tank. So the fuel tank has to be properly mounted, no missing parts, no damage. We don't want any leaks at the fuel tank. It needs to be tight and secure, all nuts and bolts and strapping holding that tank in place. We're going to check the fill tube, that it's securely mounted to the tank and that it's not leaking or seeping into fuel. And we also want to make sure that the tank is properly capped. So here's our fuel cap, and that caps that fuel filler tube, and you can see the top of the fuel tank right here. It looks relatively clean and dry. I don't smell any fuel. I don't see any leaks. All right, as we move to the rear door, and we want to inspect the doors on both sides of the bus, we want to make sure that the weather stripping, the door molding is not ripped or torn. We inspect that the glass is not cracked or broken. We will inspect that the step lights are not damaged and both of them are lit up so it lights up the stairway at the rear exit of the bus. We have a bottom side marker here. The bulb is lit, the lens is not damaged, no missing parts. Now as we make the full circle, going counterclockwise around the bus, we conclude the exterior light and panel inspection. Here's our side marker light, both bulbs lit, proper color is amber, the lens is not broken, and there are no missing parts. You can see our step lamp for the front entry is lit up and it is not damaged. And that concludes the exterior inspection. We will begin the interior inspection of the bus, starting with the front entry door. I want to make sure that the door is in good condition. The hinges are not damaged. The door operates smoothly. All the weather stripping and the door molding is intact, securely mounted, not ripped or torn. And of course, that the glass is not cracked or broken. There are handrails on the front door. As I enter, I want to inspect that they are tight and secure, no missing parts. We step into the bus. I want to inspect that I have a fire extinguisher that's properly charged and securely mounted. We'll inspect the electrical system on the bus. These buses do not use fuses. They operate on circuit breakers located throughout the bus. I want to make sure that I have 3 emergency triangles in the event that I need these. And I want to inspect my seat belt. I'm going to check that the belt is not ripped, frayed, or torn, and that it properly latches. As we continue to inspect the rear the interior of the coach, we're going to inspect all the handrails. That all of the handrails are tight and secure. We want to make sure that all the seat frames are tight and secure. The seat cushions, the seat backs, there's no apparent damage or any problem with the seating. Handrails are throughout the bus. We will inspect all of them. We want to inspect our emergency exits. At each window of the red handle, we have 3 emergency exits. On the entry side of the bus, we have 3 emergency exits on the driver's side of the bus. To operate them is very simple. You pull the red handle, push the window out. To close it, release the red handle and allow the window to smartly close. So we'll continue inspecting the floor. We want to make sure the floor is clean and dry, that there are no tripping hazards, no obstructions, no wet spots anywhere. We continue to inspect the handrails and the seating. We want to inspect the rear door and the exit area, that it's clean, dry, free of any tripping hazards. We want to inspect the handrails. Again, that the doors is properly closed. It fits tight against the bus frame, that the glass is not cracked or broken, and it's all clear at the exit of the bus. Handrails are good, tight, seating is tight and secure, all the way up to the back. We have one more emergency exit located here. To operate, it's very simple. Simply push up to close it, pull it back down. And that covers the interior of the coach. All right, so I'm seated in the driver's seat, and we will begin inspecting the driver's compartment. The first thing that I'm going to do is put on my seat belt. When you're taking your CDL test, you're required to have the belt on if you're going to move the bus. There's a possibility we're definitely going to move the bus when we do the brake test, so I'm going to put the belt on first thing. The next step is I am going to demonstrate a safe start. So I'm going to use the master control switch. I'm going to click it 1 notch to the right and put the bus into day run. You'll hear the relays and the lamps. The bus is coming online. Once all of the clicking and the relays stop and the alarms go off, you can press the start button. But before doing that, I'm going to make sure that I'm in neutral, that the transmission is in neutral, the park brake is set, and I'm going to look around the bus to make sure that there's nobody at or near the bus, and I can safely start it. The next step is I'm going to look up at our light panel up here and see if I have an ABS light on. ABS is for the anti-lock braking system. There is no lamp, so the ABS system is functioning properly. Alright, so I will begin inspecting the interior of the coach, and I will begin with the mirror adjustment. I can adjust my rear view mirrors with these toggle switches, which allow me to adjust both the lower and the upper panels of the mirror. I can inspect the mirror again. The interior glass gives me clear vision through the back of the bus, through the mirrors, no signs of any damage. Windshield also, no obstructions to my forward view. The windshield and glass is in good condition. So I can adjust the right-hand mirror in the same fashion, allow me to adjust the top or the bottom panel. This is my door controller. This allows me to activate the rear door, open the front door, or just simply open both front and rear door simultaneously. This is my master control switch. This switch, when placed in day run, turns on the electrical power to the bus and prepares it to be started. When I click one more notch to the right, you can see the headlight symbol. It also turns on the exterior lights, all of the headlights, all of the clearance lights, the marker lights, and side marker. This is my four-way flasher control. Simply push that toggle forward. You can see up top my indicators are working properly, telling me that the four-ways are on, and I also have the alarm. Interior lamps. This allows me to adjust lighting. I can turn on all of the interior lamps to light up the coach for the passengers, or I can just light up one side for nighttime driving. This is my transmission controller. It allows me to select forward and reverse gears. It's an automatic transmission. Just simply firmly apply the brake, press D, and the transmission will go into drive. As we move to the dashboard, we have our washer and wiper. And this activates the windshield wipers and the washers. As you can see, press the button and it cleans the windshield, and you can select low or high speed. As we move down, this is the heater and defroster. This is for the driver's compartment, and it allows you to de-ice the windshield in cold weather. You can adjust the temperature from cool to hot and adjust the flow from the window or the floor. And you have a fan at which you can adjust the speed. My air pressure gauge measures air in pounds per square inch, PSI. Right now we're at 120 PSI. This lets me know we have proper air pressure in the air tank. The speedometer, of course, measures road speed in miles per hour. We have oil pressure. Right now we're idling at about 20 PSI, which is normal for idle, and it tells me the engine's being lubricated. Our water temperature is at 160 degrees, building to a normal of 190 degrees. The buses are equipped with both a 12 volt and a 20 volt, 24 volt charging system. So we have two gauges, one to show 12 volts operating properly, and the other at 24. This tells me the batteries are being properly charged. Here, the fuel gauge, we have a full tank of fuel. As we move to the right, we have the kneeler, and this is for our wheelchair ramp operation, and then we have our ramp controls. To operate the wheelchair ramp is very simple. You just simply kneel the bus. The kneeler lets air out of the airbag. The bus will drop approximately 5 to 6 inches. Make sure wheelchair power is on, and then press the toggle switch to deploy. Now, as I'm inspecting the ramp, I want to make sure that there's no damage to the hinges. There are no missing parts, nothing leaking, no air leaks or any kind of hydraulic fluid leaks. So, just hold the toggle down and I'm going to put the ramp back in. And I want to make sure that the ramp is secure to the floor. It's not raised, not causing any tripping hazard. I have a 20-inch steering wheel that has no more than 2 inches of play, which is perfect. There's the horn. The horn works. Alright, we will now inspect the turn signal indicators. We have two switches on the floor. The left is for the left turn signal. The right switch is for the right turn signal. You can press and hold, and you can see we have the left turn signal. I move my foot to the right. There's the right hand turn signal. And if I turn on the four-way flashers, you see they both are on, indicating the four-way flashers. At this point, I'm going to ask the inspector if he will assist me in inspecting the turn signals up front and back, as well as the four-way flashers front and back, and the stop lights.